welcome to another episode of the Piledriver Weekly. My name is Electric Eric Davidson, and this is my partner Ace Larson. We have a lot to cover on today's episode, but before we get into it, I just want to give a quick Piledriver shout out to Miss Jess Padley. She watched the show last week all the way from across the Atlantic in jolly old England, gave us a big thumbs up. Thank you so much, Jess. We appreciate it a lot. Now, we're going to cover a few different promotions here from now on. Of course, the majority of the show probably will still be dedicated to Raw because it's the longest show and it's the flagship. But we will be covering Ring of Honor, but we're only going to cover Ring of Honor monthly. We're going to do it for their pay-per-views because the way they do their TV tapings, it runs behind the pay-per-views. The shows that are airing now are a couple weeks behind the last pay-per-view. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense, and because of time restraints, we're just going to do Ring of Honor monthly. But we love Ring of Honor, not trying to leave them out or anything. And we have a local promotion here called OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling. And they are the farm team, basically, for TNA. And really, really good independent promotion.
Used to be owned by WWE.
Yeah, it used to be the farm club for WWE, their training ground years ago. A lot of stars have come out of OVW. And they're, like I said, they're our home team, so we're going to cover OVW. We're just going to do a quick rundown of the results and let you know a little bit about when you can catch them on TV and stuff like that. But OVW this week, the show opens up with the television champion Rockstar Spud defending against Jeremiah Pluckett. Not a bad showing by the champ. He gets the win. And then we go to a segment. They're getting a new TV deal. And they're going to be on WBNA 21 on Saturdays at noon. If you're in the Louisville area, tune in and watch them. That starts April 6th. And April 6th also happens to be the same night as their Saturday night special. They do one a month. They don't do pay-per-views, but that's kind of like their pay-per-view. One a month, they do the Saturday night special at the Davis Arena on Shepherdsville Road. I believe it starts 7:30. Go check it out. Then we go backstage. GM Michael Hayes. He's talking with Moose and Spade. They're having a conversation with Jay Bradley. And it ends up Michael Hayes, and not Bad Street, P.S. Michael Hayes. It's a different Michael Hayes. But he's the GM there, and he sets up a match with James Moose Johnson and Johnny Spade versus Jay Bradley and a mystery partner. Bradley has to find a partner because nobody likes him at OVW. But anyhow, this goes into a tag match with Elvis Pridemore and Nick Dumeyer against the tag team champions Alex Silva and Sam Shaw, also known as the New School. The champs get the win here and afterwards send a message to the coalition that they're ready for war. Then we cut to Jay Bradley once again backstage looking for a tag team partner. He asks Rob Terry. Terry rejects him. Then Bradley ends up paying Cliff Compton to tag with him. So he ends up having to pay somebody. Then we go to an intergender tag team match with Taylor Hendricks and Dylan Bostic teaming up against Heidi Lovelace and friend of the show, Ryan Howe. There's a funny exchange here between Ryan and Taylor. They're supposed to be wrestling each other because the girls could wrestle the guys, and he's trying to like take it all easy on her, and see she's swooning over him because he's like the rock star kind of guy, and her boyfriend Dylan's getting jealous of the whole thing. It was a pretty funny exchange. The match ends up getting thrown out when best tag team ever, Jesse Goddard and Rudy Switchblade come out, and they're fighting each other now. but the whole thing ends up just turning into a melee. And then we finally come to the Jay Bradley and Cliff Compton versus Johnny Spade and Moose Thompson match. It starts out all right, not far into the match. Compton bails on Bradley. Then Moose and Spade get into it, and Bradley sneaks in the win. Then we do a thing here with Paradise. Paradise is the flamboyant kind of gay character, for lack of a better term, on OVW. He's kind of like their Adrian Street or whatever, and he's giving Brittany Deveray a makeover supposedly, and she ends up getting mustard dumped on her. And it kind of put me in mind of, when the Godwins used to slop people on WWF, or kind of like the movie Carrie 2 when they pour the pig's blood all over her. But anyhow, we get to the main event. It's the Coalition, or Crimson of the Coalition, I should say, against Jamin Olivenzia in a top contenders match. Now, Olivenzia had taken the OVW title, but there was some controversy. The decision was reversed. So Doug Williams has the belt back, and he comes out and interferes in the match, and Crimson gets the win, and he will go on to Saturday Night Special to face Williams. Like I said, if you're in our area, support OVW. They're really good independent promotion. It's a cheap night out. You can go see the matches for like $5. And if you can't make it to the matches, like I said, watch them on WBNA 21 Saturdays at noon starting April 6th. And that's that for OVW. And next we're going to move on to Impact, and I'm going to let Ace take this one here.
All right, starting out for TNA Impact this week, we had a Bully Ray vignette recapping the whole start of this history with Aces and Eights and pulling the wool over our eyes, the big hoax as he calls it, how he fooled us all. Looks like a reality TV show. I mean, just a soap opera within a soap opera.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you got Hulkster coming out with one crunch, limping down the rampway there. The crowd's into it. I mean, the crowd's all about it, and they're hot for Hogan, but then again, he goes on to talk for 5-10 minutes, whatever it was. Then he talks about his warriors. Give me my warriors, these strong warriors, my troopers.
These 4 guys were the ones that stood up for TNA.
Yeah, against Aces and Eights. Yeah. He got Samoa Joe, Magnus, Kurt Angle, and Jeff Hardy. And the next thing you know, he wants them all turn at each other and have a number one contenders match tonight.
All right. Now I'm going to put y'all against each other.
Yeah. He lets Jeff Hardy talk, I think, 23 seconds, and the mic's back in his hand.
Well, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with Hogan being there in a speaking role. He's playing the GM. I don't have a problem with that. I think he still hogs a little too much of camera time. Mm-hmm. But I don't have a problem with guys after they retire from the ring wanting to still be around it. I mean, that's totally understandable. Hogan's a little old and tired, but and I will say this, I think taking Impact on the road was one of the best decisions they ever made.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it had gotten really still always being down there in Orlando in the Impact zone. Like I said, the crowd seemed pretty hot.
Really, it's at Cedar Center, Chicago is where they were.
I thought it was Chicago. I wasn't sure of the venue. Chicago's a good wrestling city.
Mm-hmm.
Always has been. Chicago is one of the great wrestling cities, along with Louisville. Louisville's always been big on wrestling.
St.
Louis. Anywhere in the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
Greensboro especially.
Mm-hmm.
The fans in Greensboro are just insane.
Oh, yeah. Memphis.
Memphis is a big wrestling town. But then we go into the first match, which I think was an excellent match.
Yeah.
It's Rude and Aries defending the tag titles against Chavo and Hernandez, the former champs.
2 great, strong teams.
Yeah, 2 very good teams. This is how tag team wrestling is done I think this match was probably better than anything I saw on Raw last week, to be honest.
Chavo looking better now than he ever has.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think Chavo, still looking real sharp, fast as he ever was.
Hernandez, what a force. What a big bruiser.
Yeah, Hernandez just crazy. I mean,
strong, fast,
huge
agile.
guy and agile. The way he can go in that ring.
Hop the top rope like it was.
Take out. Yeah, that
Aries.
was crazy. And
Bobby Roode and Austin Aries, I know this is maybe a stretch for a lot of you out there, but just a little bit like Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Just a little bit. That's what I first thought of seeing them together. It's just a little bit like Arn and Tully. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I can totally see that because I think I even said this on last week's episode. Roode reminds me of a cross between Arn Anderson and Kurt Hennig.
Yeah.
And
just a great team.
Great team. And, Chavo and Hernandez, great team. Like I said, I don't know. I've never heard anything about Hernandez being, difficult to work with or anything. But, why Vince hasn't tried to scoop him up, I'm not sure. Because he's got that look that Vince likes. And he's
big monster.
Yeah. But he's a monster who can move. And, he can go. But really, really good match. I wasn't crazy about the finish with Daniels and Kazarian running in. I understand the purpose of it. They're building heat. But it was just such a good match. I wish it could have ended in cleanly in a pin or submission.
Those two teams, they could probably have a 30-minute tag team match.
Yeah.
Those two right there.
Yeah.
Just
or,
very entertaining.
Take those three teams, put them in a three-way.
Yeah.
Man.
You can talk about a main event right there.
And we go from that, and then they have an X Division spot, kind of showing the history of the X Division and, the new format. They've got new rules for the X Division. But then it just suddenly turns into a
sloppy start.
A 5-hour energy commercial. Kenny King just whipping out his 5-hour energy. And I thought that was kind of lame. I understand sponsorship and all.
I almost thought we'd already gone to commercial. Is this the commercial or is this still TNA?
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to tell.
But like I was saying, sloppy start to that match with Kenny King, Zemayan, and Sanjay.
Oh yeah, the three-way X Division title. Especially Sanjay, I don't know where he's been.
A couple early botches.
Yeah, he had a couple pretty big botches. I don't know if he's been laid out or if he's just been wrestling elsewhere. I'm not sure. But him in particular, I thought looked a little bit sloppy. But all in all, it was an all right match. Not bad. Good finish. What do you think about the new format for the X Division?
I think it can be good if they stay consistent with it. Because how wrestling sometimes after so long it'll be like that never existed and we're back to doing it this way, doing it another way. So if they keep consistently at it, it may work to their favor. Just depends on who they use.
And I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of the three-way concept. It makes for some great matches, but I just wish that it was elimination, not just one fall. That's my only gripe with it. But that at the same time, for some people, might be the appeal. It's just
your opinion.
Yeah. Then Brooke backstage real quick.
And then more Bully Ray vignettes.
More.
I told you all.
More Bully Ray and his master plan that he pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. Then we see Sting in Hogan's office, which, I kind of liked Hogan's reference to the, WCW with the whole crow and the rafters kind of angle. Hey Sting, why don't you just go disappear for another year? That's what you're best at when things get tough. That was kind of funny. I liked that. Then we move on to Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell build up. Lots of bad acting here.
Snooze fest.
Yeah, then Brooke comes out, even more bad acting. And then even more bad acting from Bully Ray when he comes out.
Point to his ring.
Yeah.
It's still mine, or what do you say?
Kind of threatening Brooke there a little
bit. So death do his part.
Yeah, he threw that in there. And so at this point, we're an hour into Impact, and we've seen 2 matches. That's one of my gripes with Impact. I'm not a TNA hater. I want to see TNA do really, really good, because the better they do, the better wrestling's going to be as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Because then Vince will have some competition, and Vince will have to outdo somebody.
They're kind of doing what WCW used to do, was just letting the same old guys be at the top and not letting anybody else start the starlight.
Yeah. They could throw a couple other guys in the mix there. I think they're kind of trying with Magnus.
Mm-hmm.
But, and some of their good talent is, down at OVW right now. Crimson, okay. Then
more Aces and Eights.
More Bully Ray and Aces and Eights. They're beating this to death. Then Matt Morgan versus Joseph Parks. Morgan comes out kind of looking like John Nord. I don't know if any of y'all remember him. He was the berserker for a while in WWF. He's got this real long, lumberjack beard going now. Parks doing a real good job of looking like a terrible wrestler. And I'm sure you're all aware that Parks is just abyss. I'm just wondering, where are they going with this?
Nowhere.
Because
absolutely nowhere.
When they first started doing the whole Joseph Parks thing, I thought there was going to be a point to it. Like, there was going to be an end game. He was going to be with Aces and Eights or something, and that's obviously not it. So now it's just kind of dragging out. I don't know, just
silly match.
Silly. Just have him go back to being Abyss. I don't know. Then the new look AJ Styles comes out. Supposed to be doing an interview with Tenay. He never speaks a word.
Never even takes his hood off.
Yeah, then, Taz, offers to let him join Aces and Eights. And, I can't buy AJ as this dark loner character. Of course, I guess that's part of the reason he's not talking, because if he did, he would sound kind of silly.
He really needs a mouthpiece. Somebody that can talk for him.
He's just got that thick Southern drawl, and it, just wouldn't work. But then, James Storm comes out and gets in his face because he sucker punched Storm the week before, and you hear chants of knock him out. I like Storm. Thought it was a pretty decent exchange there, or not even really exchange, just him talking. But I like Storm, but I can't buy Styles in that role. Then, for the love of God, even more Bully Ray with the Aces and Eights crap. It's kind of like the NWO mixed with Sons of Anarchy.
Mm-hmm. But the thing, we can't even buy Bully Ray as a champion to begin with.
No.
So it's just all for naught.
No, I never was big on Bubba Ray Dudley. I was never a Dudley fan. Devon, okay, just all right, but
okay tag team.
Yeah, but they try to put the Dudleys up there with the Road Warriors, and just sorry, they're not anywhere close.
No.
They were just kind of like in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said this last week. They were never WCW Tag Team Champions because they never wrestled for WCW. So you can't count that among their titles when comparing them to the Warriors. Mm-hmm. The Road Warriors actually wrestled for the AWA, the WWF, the NWA, and held world titles in all those promotions at a time that was
unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, sure, teams bounce from promotion to promotion, but they were the first team to ever do that, to hold a world title in the big three at that time. So, to me, there's just no comparison. But anyhow,
number one contenders match.
The number one contenders match, 4-way between Joe, Magnus, Angle, and Hardy. Not a bad match, but nothing real special here.
Hardy wins.
Hardy wins, of course. I don't know.
I just can't buy him as a heavyweight champion.
It is kind of hard. I don't know if I put him on that main event level. Even when he was doing it in the WWE, they put the belt on him there. I still wasn't sure of it then. I don't know. I mean, the guy can go in the ring. I don't know. I can't quite put my thumb on it, but I just can't quite buy Hardy, like you said, as a heavyweight champion. But that just about wraps up Impact.
It was okay. I mean, wasn't anything to write home about it.
No, nothing spectacular. They have some really good in-ring talent there. I just wish there was a little less silly drama and talking and just a little more in-ring action. Mm-hmm. So that does it for Impact for this week. And next we move on to Friday Night SmackDown. Now, SmackDown opens with a Raw recap, as usual. They show a little bit of the Swagger Del Rio incident. Then, Shield against Sheamus and Orton.
We got Miz TV.
Yeah, we go to
Sheamus in the ring. And
then
classic Booker T coming out and announcing a big tag team match for the main event. And it's just like, how many times have we seen this before?
Yeah, okay. That's not how things are supposed to get set up. But anyway, we had touched on this before. When I was younger, feuds got set up from somebody betraying somebody or some incident. It wasn't just two guys coming out talking smack and then the GM coming out and saying, "Okay, you guys are against each other."
Yeah. And another tag team match.
Where's the where's the drama in that? It's just I don't know. But yeah, Miz TV, pretty much a rehash of the highlight reel with Jericho. Miz once again modeling himself after Jericho. I don't hate the Miz. He's decent on the mic and he's decent in the ring. We talked about him a little bit last week. But
they're not doing anything with him.
No, but I think they're starting to because they're starting to have him
beat all the
go over on all the
champions. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Then we have a recap of Henry and Ryback from last week. And that segues into Henry versus Zack Ryder.
Squash.
Yeah, big surprise there, squash. Then a beatdown after the match. Ryback comes out and gets one shot in on Henry, then Henry bails. And
crowd's strong for Ryback.
Yeah, I mean, they love him. There's no denying that. And like I said, I don't hate Ryback, I don't know. I could take him or leave him.
We've kind of seen it so many times.
Yeah, before. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
But then that goes to there's just a quick little exchange between Booker and Teddy Long backstage, and you sense a little bit of dissension there. Booker, maybe the power's going to his head a little bit. It seems like. Don't know where they're going to go with that, but we'll see. And after that, we have Dolph Ziggler versus Kofi Kingston.
Good match, but what did it mean?
Yeah.
Once again, for the 47th time, Dolph Ziggler versus Kofi Kingston for nothing.
Yeah, for nothing. But I will say this: I think this was better than the match from Raw the week before. Mm-hmm. Ziggler looks real sharp in the ring.
Crisp.
Yeah. Kofi does too. Don't get me wrong. And let me say, I kind of dogged Kofi last week on the show. Don't get me wrong. I got nothing against Kofi. He's a good wrestler. I just think his gimmick has become stale and boring. They need to do something else with him. That's all I'm saying. And nothing against Kofi himself, and nothing against his in-ring ability. He looks good in the ring too. And it was actually a really good match, I thought. Mm-hmm. Then they recap Jericho and Fandango, and then Taker and Punk. Something I'm not really getting here, though, they're kind of trying to sell this Taker Punk thing as the streak versus the reign.
The reign's over.
The reign's over. It can't be the streak versus the reign. It would only be versus the reign if he was still reigning.
What about best in the world versus the streak?
That would be better.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, or the self-proclaimed best in the world. Whatever you want to call it, but you can't really sell it as the reign versus the streak because the reign's gone. It's not the reign versus anything anymore. It's over. Then a quick little segue, Sheamus, Orton, and show backstage. Then another recap of Swagger Del Rio. Then that leads into Swagger versus Jericho.
Good match.
Yeah, really good match, I thought.
Swagger's booed out of the building. Out of the building.
But they wanted to draw heat. They're doing a good job.
The crowd was into the match. They were going back and forth.
Yeah.
Real hot for this match.
Yeah, and we love Jericho. So, and I love Dutch Mantel in this. On the mic here for Swagger. It just knows how to draw heat like no other.
Yeah.
Mantel, just one of the best heels ever in, the Memphis wrestling area. I grew up watching it, and, Dutch Mantel just really, really good at just pissing people off.
Think how much better it would be if he had somebody more credible than Jack Swagger, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it would just make it even that much better. If he had Punk, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But, I think that's why guys like Mantel get put with guys like Swagger to try and make Swagger better.
Yeah.
So, not that Swagger can't wrestle, he can. But he's lacking something else as far as charisma or mic skills, whatever it may be. I mean, obviously mic skills. He's just not a good talker. But
Fandango interferes or Fandango
interferes. We get the interference. Swagger gets the fall.
Fandango booed some more.
Yeah, you hear the "you can't wrestle" chants. But all in all, pretty good match. Then we see Big Show with Matt Striker backstage. Then Rock Cena segment, the build up to Mania and their whole story.
Yeah. And here's one thing: stop talking about WrestleMania 28.
Yeah,
you build it as once in a lifetime. If you're not going to stick to it being once in a lifetime, drop it. Start a new kind of fresh build up for this.
Right.
That's all they talked about last year.
Yeah, and the whole thing was just kind of melodramatic to me with the music and all that.
Yeah.
And
Cena like a broken man on a rampway. Well, he's only gone over everybody else in wrestling history. Shawn Michaels, Triple H,
he loses
cleanly at WrestleMania.
Loses one main event and acts like it's the end of his world.
Yeah, he's 36-1 now. I mean, he made Triple H and Shawn Michaels both tap out at back-to-back WrestleManias, and then he's sitting crying about not even a part-time, a quarter-time champion there on the rampway at WrestleMania last year.
Yeah.
That's another story.
So, then we have the Rhodes Scholars, and the Bellas show up with them.
Like the Bellas.
I like the Bellas, and I like Rhodes Scholars. I like
if they keep them together.
Yeah. I think they're a good team. I mean, I think they're okay individually, too.
Yeah. Still, neither one of them seem to find that place, but we hit on that last week.
Yeah. And they're up against Clay and Tensai, or
Comic Relief.
Yeah, Comic Relief. But, I like this team. I can't help it. They're not even the kind of team I really usually like. But, they're fun. They're a little bit goofy, but... both those guys were kind of
pushed as big man, but kind of flopped.
Right, yeah.
Well,
especially, Tensai when he came back in, he was Prince Albert, then he was A-Train. I mean, when they brought him back in, he was supposed to be this monster, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So now he's kind of in the comedy role. The match was a throwaway.
Yeah.
It never even really got started.
Yeah.
So really no comment there as far as the match. Then
Sheamus and Orton interview backstage, and then we have the Antonio Cesaro versus The Miz.
Once again, let's job out the U.S. champion. And let's job him out to The Miz and let's have him submit. I don't.
With the figure 4 leg lock.
Yeah, I just.
Makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all. I mean, I guess they're trying to get Miz back in the picture, which is fine. But, you know, to have him beat the U.S. champ clean, you know.
This isn't the first time.
No, it's not the first time. They've been jobbing Cesaro out left and right. It weakens Cesaro. It weakens the U.S. title. It just makes no sense.
And like you said, if it wasn't for the money, Antonio Cesaro, why didn't he just say, you know what, screw this.
Yeah.
I'll just go back to Ring of Honor.
I'll just go back to being Claudio Castagnoli and, you know, be one of the kings of wrestling again. Which, you know, I don't. Where's Chris Hero?
Yeah, is he still in NXT?
I guess so.
He's under some kind of new name like Cassius Ono.
Yeah.
Or something weird like
yeah.
that.
They always give him some goofy name.
But he really needs to be in developmental.
But anyhow,
Gosh.
Then we recap the whole Triple H Lesnar affair.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
I like it though. I mean,
yeah, like I said, it should be a good bloodbath at Mania.
Mm-hmm.
Then we finally get to the main event here. The 6-man Orton, Sheamus, Big Show against 3MB. Half decent match. It was nice to see 3MB put up half a fight for once.
Crowd was into it, fast paced, solid action.
Then of course the Shield comes out and it all goes to hell.
But you know, the Shield, if they win at Mania, they're probably not going to do anything with them. If Randy Orton, Sheamus, and Big Show win at WrestleMania, they're probably not going to do anything with them. So somebody's got to be the leader of the Shield. Somebody's got to turn heel. Right. I think it's Orton. I hope it's Orton, but it could be somebody else.
Yeah, it's funny you say because I was just about to bring that up. I get a feeling that one of these three guys is somehow involved with the Shield, whether he's the leader or whatever, and it would make sense that it be Orton. You know,
he's a snake anyway.
Because he's always played the snake and. You know, they're trying to kind of make it seem like it might be Big Show that you can't trust. And with Orton trying to be the voice of reason, it's like, come on, you're talking about, you know, not to steal anything from Flair, but you know, one of the dirtiest players in the game here.
They kind of did this similar thing with Legacy a few years ago, remember? Where
Yeah.
You just didn't know, and then all of a sudden he was the leader.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, could be, could not be, we'll see. But,
it was an okay show.
Yeah.
I mean, your usual SmackDown.
Yeah. SmackDown isn't supposed to be better than Raw.
It used to be just as equal back when it first started.
Yeah.
When it was live, it was good.
But, you know, I think it's kind of, you know, supposed to be the secondary show.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But, yeah, that wraps up SmackDown and takes us to
Monday Night Raw.
And
a lot better than last week.
Yeah, I will say it was an improvement over last week.
But not too much of an improvement. I mean, they've lost a lot of steam, a lot of ground. It seems like they've got to make up.
Yeah.
I don't know if 1 week's enough time to do it now.
Well, and, you know, and here's something that I find funny is that how many times have you heard guys like criticize when WCW went to 3 hours?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They take a lot of flack for that.
Yeah.
But now Raw has done it, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but
they don't do it correctly.
They don't do it right. Exactly. It's like they're just filling more time with filler. It's just more
people that shouldn't be jobbed. That are getting jobbed.
If you're gonna make it 3 hours, use the 3 hours, man.
They got plenty of people to do it.
Sure. You know, and we'll get to that again later. But you know, it opens up with a quick look back at Cena and Rock and Taker Punk. Then you hear the Cult of Personality. Punk comes out with Heyman.
Good promo.
With the urn in tow.
Mm-hmm.
Punk comes out, talks some smack.
Lights go out.
Taker
it's not the boogeyman.
Yeah, you know, and which, you know, I guess it's still cool. It's the Taker's thing, but like, does anybody not know what's going to happen when the lights go out? We all know what's coming.
He was throwing the wood though at him. He was throwing haymakers.
Yeah,
he was making it look believable.
Yeah, he
was holding his ears. He walked out.
He got a couple good shots in there.
That was a whole lot better than the segment they did last week.
Yeah, and we discussed that. Yeah. It's funny because after we discussed that, I happened to read a couple days ago online that in fact Paul Bear's family did sign off and approve the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of my question. So that kind of puts my mind at ease a little bit on that. But so we go from that, and then here comes Fandango to not debut once again. Jericho runs out and attacks him. Fandango bails out. Then we go straight into Jericho Ziggler. Which, these two guys, I think, could really have a good series of matches together.
They could have a WrestleMania main event type match every night. But once again, what did it mean?
Yeah, it's, with Ziggler, it's like, man, go ahead and have him cash in already.
Mm-hmm.
They've teased it a couple times now, and, it's gone on long enough. Cash in, man. I'd love to see him have a decent run with the belt.
Yeah. Well, he had it once before for a cup of coffee and a couple handshakes.
Yeah.
The 5-hour energy.
Long enough for a shot, but I like to see him actually have a substantial run with the title.
Mm-hmm. Okay match.
Not a bad match.
Not enough time.
Yeah, well, because the
Fandango returns.
Yeah, after Jericho gets the win, he gets beat down by Big E Langston. Then Fandango comes out and picks the bones.
Does that huge, awesome off the top leg drop. I mean, man, that was halfway across the ring.
Yeah.
Which I'm digging this feud. Jericho wouldn't wrestle a slouch at WrestleMania.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've seen some of his matches. Fandango, Johnny Curtis, when he was with NXT down in Florida, and he's a decent in-ring worker. He could make this work possible.
Could it be a sleeper match, one of those sleeper type matches?
Yeah, it could be. It really could be. One of the best matches of the night. We'll see. Then
Sheamus interview.
Yeah, we go backstage. The Shield attacks Sheamus. Orton steps in.
Michael Cole goes, "They're beating the hell out of Sheamus."
My God! Kind of a JR moment there. But Orton starts getting beat down too. Then Show, comes, makes the save. Seems like that kind of cements his position on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to Mark Henry versus the Usos.
And then one of the Usos had a DUI last week, but I guess...
Did he? I didn't hear about that.
I guess they're not doing anything about that to guys these days, so...
Yeah, I guess DUIs don't count as a wellness policy violation. You just can't fail any piss test.
Yeah.
But there are other ways of punishing them besides suspension, though.
Yeah.
Have them job out in a handicap match to Mark Henry.
On live TV. When we hadn't seen him in months on live TV.
But, the Usos, not a bad team.
Part of that famous Fatu family.
Yeah.
It really gets overlooked as a wrestling family.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. You always hear about the Von Erichs or the Harts. The Fatu family, the Samoans, they're all related. All those guys.
Yokozuna, Maga, Rock.
Yeah. Rikishi is their dad. He's the dad of the Usos, and as a matter of fact, his brother was Umaga, and their other brother was Tama, who was one of the Islanders.
Don't want Yokozuna married to one of their sisters?
I can't remember the exact relation, but and even the Rock's related to him. Sika and Alpha, they're all kin, and just what a great wrestling family. So the Usos were in it for a minute, then Henry destroys them. No surprise there. And here we go again. Del Rio versus Cesaro.
The crowd was dead for Del Rio. Absolutely dead.
And I'm thinking, all right, here we go again. They're going to job out Cesaro. Okay, at least this time it's to the world champion.
Yeah.
But Swagger comes out, attacks Ricardo. Del Rio makes the save but gets counted out. So Cesaro gets the win, but he still looks weak because he only wins by count out, and then he gets beat down by Del Rio after the match. So even though he wins, they still manage to make him look weak. I just
it's just oh, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And the crowd's dead the whole time.
Yeah, it's like let's put the U.S. title on Cesaro, then make him look like a bum.
Yeah.
I just
yeah.
I don't get it. Then did you catch this little tidbit? The Rock was voted best butt kicker at the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards.
What does that even mean? You know, I don't even. What does that even mean?
I guess they're not allowed to say biggest badass or whatever.
Ass kicker. Whatever.
So that anyhow, I just had to throw that little tidbit in there.
At least he graced us with his presence tonight.
Yeah, finally. So then we go to Team Hell No against the Primetime Players.
Solid match.
Yeah, good match, not bad. We poke fun at the Primetime Players a little bit, but I like the Primetime Players.
They have an actual tag team feel about it.
Right, they're a team. They have a team name. They wear matching outfits. They come out to the ring together. It's not
too
too
bad on the mic either.
No, they're entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean,
in the right situations.
Right.
Not like last week.
They're clowns. Yeah. Last week with the Pancake Patterson thing was a bit much, but they're not bad, man. I think there's a place for them, and like I said, it kind of harkens back to the glory days of tag team wrestling. So I like that part.
Yeah, former Nexus member, which they never ring up.
It's like the Nexus never existed. But, and just for a split second, so was Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. He's the one that got fired.
Yeah. But, so then...
Triple H, Lesnar recap. Triple H comes to the ring.
Hell No gets the win.
Oh, sorry.
We skipped the result there.
Yeah.
Hell No gets the win with Ziggler and Langston looking on
from the ramp.
Yeah. I guess doing a little bit of scouting. But yeah, then we're on to the another look back at Triple H Lesnar build up. Triple H comes out, delivers a message to Lesnar.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Blah blah blah.
And then Wade Barrett comes out a little too early.
He should have waited a little bit longer because he comes out and makes the mistake of telling Triple H to get lost and gets kicked in the nuts for it. It was funny. I mean,
once again, making another champion look like a complete idiot, a buffoon.
And he has to go right into the match,
limping around, holding his mats.
Yeah, and so we go right into Barrett versus Miz.
Once again.
Decent match, man, but
what did it mean?
Same thing that it is with Cesaro. Why on earth would you have your Intercontinental Champion job out to The Miz by submission? I can understand if Miz cheated to win, but he makes the Intercontinental tap out in the middle of the ring. It makes Barrett look weak. It makes the belt look weak. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
And there's no United States title or Intercontinental title match scheduled for WrestleMania as of right now.
If nothing else, have the two, fight each other. Put Barrett against Cesaro, title versus title.
Yeah.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
That could be a real good match.
Mm-hmm. Two main event guys right there that are just wasting.
Yeah.
More or less.
Those two could actually have a pretty good program together, I think. So then, after that, we go backstage again. Hell No doing the back and forth thing again.
Silliness.
Yeah. Then Caitlyn cuts in on him, and she's kind of talking a little bit of smack about AJ. AJ overhears it, attacks her, throws her into a drinking fountain there. But that's that. Then we're on to the Shield in a 6-man against great colleagues, Zack Ryder and Justin Gabriel.
Hey, I'm just glad to see Justin Gabriel on TV.
Yeah, me too. I like Gabriel a lot. I think he's great in the ring. And I wish they would really figure out something for him. You know,
anything.
Yeah, even if they had to put him with a manager to talk for him or whatever. He's too good to be wasting away like that, man.
You think he's one of the most talented guys on the whole roster?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Put him in the U.S. title picture.
Yeah,
man.
Him and Cesaro, they had a little match last year for the U.S. title. But those two, I think, have put on a really good series of matches.
Yeah.
I mean, he can work well with anybody, really.
And he does that 450 off the top.
Badass.
And I've never seen him once botch it, ever. Just spot on every time.
That's better than the Swanton of Jeff Hardy.
That's
better
far.
than the Frog Splash, Eddie Guerrero, and Rob Van Dam. That 450 splash is awesome.
And just high impact, man. It's like he's just breaking his ribs every time he does it. But the Shield gets the win. Then out come Orton, Sheamus, and Show. They finally kind of seem cohesive as a team.
For now,
yeah. And then we're backstage once again, and Jericho's coming out of Vicky's office. It's on at Mania with Fandango. It's official. We called that last week.
Telling you, everybody, look out for that one.
Yeah.
Look out for that match.
I think that could be the match of the night. You never know.
Yeah.
I think it's got a good chance of stealing the show. Then we go to the Rhodes Scholars, come out, and they got the Bellas with them again. So I guess they're going to make a regular thing out of that. And Sandow's great at insulting the crowd. I love that. And they're against
a lot of mustache signs for Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, the mustache thing is getting over, man. The 70s porn stash.
He's probably thinking, if only I'd known this earlier.
And they're against Brodus Clay and
Sweet Tea.
Yeah,
I'll take unsweet.
Yeah.
Cole told everybody the Tenside bathrobes are now on sale at WWE.com.
Get yours while you can. They're selling out fast. Scholars get the win here.
Joke.
Yeah, just kind of a time filler there. Then we
Ryboch versus 3MB.
Yeah, come on. I mean,
three guys?
Two guys, but, three. And this isn't just, like, three chumps here, man. I know they make them out to be chumps, but, Heath Slater, former tag team champion, Drew McIntyre, a former Intercontinental champion.
And Heath Slater and Drew McIntyre together, I think, could be a really good, serious tag team.
Yeah.
Just those two. Get Mahal out. Get him out of here.
Yeah, I agree.
Those two, yeah.
And it's not that Mahal's terrible. It's just...
He doesn't fit.
Yeah, he don't fit with the 3MB. They should have...
He needs to be more like a Big E Langston type.
Yeah,
They'll be behind the scenes for a little bit.
They needed like another rock and roll kind of guy in there. I never understood Jinder Mahal being in that group, but 3MB was hanging in there for a second, but Ryback got the best of him.
Picking up the two guys was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I did like the double shell shock. Don't get me wrong, it was cool. But one guy beating three, it's like, come on, man. Hell, 3 count could probably beat one guy.
Yeah.
It's just the numbers game, man. But anyhow, then they announced Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to induct Bruno Sammartino into the Hall of Fame.
Kind of random.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were friends, but apparently they've been friends for years. Arnold's a big wrestling fan, from what I understand.
He was on SmackDown a few years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
In his time, I think he could have done a spot like Mike Tyson at WrestleMania 14. Kind of like that enforcer referee type.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. I'd say probably Arnold's asking price was probably too much, though. But
Vince, what the hell?
Then the next match is AJ Lee versus Caitlyn. Lame, pointless, not even really anything to discuss there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this because they're girls. It's just WWE just doesn't know how to do women's wrestling right. They call them divas. It's the Divas Championship, and most of these girls are just eye candy. They're not even really wrestlers. Yeah. Now, you want to see some good female wrestling, watch the Women of Honor in Ring of Honor. Women like Sarah Del Rey and Mischief. I mean, I wouldn't want to fight those girls.
Does Maria wrestle any in Ring of Honor? She's more of
I've never seen her wrestle in Ring of Honor. She's usually just the arm candy. But she was a WWE diva, so she doesn't really know how to wrestle.
Yeah.
She would get torn apart by somebody like Sarah Del Rey. I mean, but anyhow, so next we got the final segment of the show, which is this Hall of Fame panel. What are your thoughts here, Ace?
Well, the big thing that I took out of this was what a class act by Bret Hart that continues to come back and do these type spots for WWE, even after everything that he's been through in his personal life, his professional life, his problems with Vince. I just love seeing him out there in that panel more than any of the other guys.
Yeah, I mean, what a class act. I mean, and I know him and Vince have, at least to a point, buried the hatchet.
There's still a little bit there between them.
There always will be. But Bret swallowed his pride and came back for his fans.
For the fans.
It just because he knew the fans wanted him to, and he finally did. Just
dare I say, best technical wrestler ever.
I wouldn't argue with you, Bret. Yeah. If I had to pick a favorite of all time, Bret would probably be the guy.
Can make anybody look good.
Yeah,
anybody look 10 times better than they were, even more so than Flair could do.
Yeah,
Bret Hart can make anybody look
Flair,
good.
And this isn't a knock at Flair or anything, but Flair basically wrestled the same match over and over again his entire career. And don't get me wrong, he did damn good. And Flair would go out there and wrestle 60 minutes and not be winded. Yeah. I mean, he was spectacular.
And to do it 320 days a year.
Yeah. I mean, those guys, they just had a grueling schedule. And he, partied on top of it.
Yeah.
Bret Hart, all-time greatest, in my opinion.
Then we had, Mick Foley, Dusty Rhodes, Booker T, kind of the usual guys.
Yeah.
They're going to do these kind of spots.
But speaking of Bret, have you read his biography?
No, I haven't.
If any of y'all haven't read it, I'm telling you, pick it up. It's an excellent read. He's just brutally honest, not just about other people, but about himself. And not just as far as wrestling goes, but about
personal.
Personal things, how he screwed up his marriage, and he takes the blame where he needs to take the blame, and he doesn't lay blame on everybody else like some of these former guys do that seem kind of bitter. He does call some people out, but he, like I said, he bears his own soul as well. So I really like the book. It's a good read. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it.
What do you think about the Rock and Cena thing here?
Well, I at first I'm like, this whole thing's just pointless.
It seemed like the crowd was real hostile, and they were anti-Cena.
They were definitely anti-Cena, but even Rock didn't get a very big reaction out of him. They're pretty much indifferent to Rock.
The crowd kind of seemed 50-50 all night anyway.
General,
it wasn't the usual Philly hot crowd, but that's not.
But they just booed Cena to death. He was just dying.
He was like every time he spoke, it's like he stuttered and shit all over himself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And the more he tried to correct himself,
he just kept digging himself back into a hole.
He couldn't win, man, especially with that Philly crowd.
Wonder how many times he had to switch cars when he was leaving the arena. 3 at least.
Scared for his life.
Hot Philly crowd, against him.
Out of the 4 guys on the panel, though, I think Foley, asked the best question. To Cena, how are you going to deal with the disappointment if you lose again? And then Rock speaks of his failures because Cena tried to say he didn't know anything about failure, and The Rock set him straight on that.
Cena keeps going on. You didn't beat me. I beat myself, and who beat who, and I beat me, and blah blah blah. And it's just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and
Rock was even like, what?
Yeah, no, you didn't beat me because you couldn't beat me. You gave me the best you had, and I kicked out. Yeah. That's why you didn't beat me. Yeah. You didn't beat yourself. I beat you. And he's right. And of course, the Rock had to get his pandering into the crowd, and
it wasn't too bad of a segment.
No, especially the way it ended. I liked the fact that Cena, doing the you can't see me punk. I always hate that, and the little smirk on his face, and he goes for the FU, ends up getting rock bottom. That was great.
Yeah, it was worth the segment alone.
Yeah, that made it worth sitting through. It really did.
But Dusty Rhodes looks awful.
Well, Dusty has.
Yeah.
Dusty didn't look good 20 years ago.
But it's like the Haggard special, and his question and Booker T's questions to me didn't make any sense.
Well, Dusty never has made a lick of sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's legendary and a great talker and everything, but he never did make any sense. His stuff was always just rambling. Mm-hmm. But Dusty's wasn't even really a question.
Yeah.
But so that about does it for Raw. What's your final thoughts on Raw?
Better than last week. But still, it feels like they've just lost some steam that they're not going to be able to recover. That level of momentum going into WrestleMania. They'd have to just knock it completely out of the park this next Monday in Raw. We'll see. I don't know if that's enough time.
Yeah. And a good friend of ours suggested that we have a rating system, and I think that's an excellent idea. And we're gonna work that out in the next couple weeks. I thought it would be kind of cool, though, that instead of just, say, 4 or 5 stars, say I give this Raw, 3 out of 5 pile drivers or body slams or suplexes or something. We'll come up with something. And but now, just to wrap things up real quick, I want to do the This Week in Wrestling History segment real quick. A lot of things have happened in this week in history, a few manias, but one in particular that I want to touch on here is WrestleMania 3, because for guys like me that grew up in that era, WrestleMania 3 was it. 1 and 2 were good, but 3 really just set the bar at so much higher level, and it was the standard for so many years after that. It may have gotten outdone as far as spectacle, but and there's, it was the Andre Hogan match, which was supposed to be the match of the century. But everybody knows that Steamboat Savage for the Intercontinental title stole that show. And that's really the match that I wanted to bring up, because to this day, still, that is one of the greatest matches I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's your personal favorite WrestleMania match?
I would probably have to say so, yeah. If I had to pick out a single favorite Mania match, I think that would have to be it. And now there's other matches that are up there with it, maybe even surpass it.
Mm-hmm. But personally to you.
But as far as Mania matches, I would have to probably put that one tops. What would you say your favorite Mania match would be?
Well, probably, growing up in this era, you grew up in that era,
right.
WrestleMania 17, Houston Astrodome, 2001. You had Hardy's, Dudley's, Edge and Christian, TLC 2. You had Undertaker and Triple H 1, but The Rock and Stone Cold, as far as excitement, intensity, rivalry, that just tore the house down, blew the roof off the place.
Yeah, I'll agree with that for sure.
And, Rock and Stone Cold, in my opinion, best rivalry ever. But that's coming from a guy who grew up in that era.
Right, and that's one of the things I love about the show is that, you're about a decade behind me. Mm-hmm. So we're from different eras. We have a different point of view, different perspectives. And we agree on a lot of things. And you definitely have a huge respect for the history of the business. But we come from different times,
points of view,
and different points of views, and I think that kind of helps things.
Mm-hmm.
But all the TLC matches were great.
Oh,
so
unbelievable!
But
I remember coming unglued when Edge speared Jeff Hardy. hanging from the belts up there all the way to the mat. I mean, I was just shit myself.
Yeah, that was a big moment. I'm not gonna lie. But I think for people my age range, that the Steamboat Savage match was just incredible. And maybe here soon we'll do an entire episode dedicated to
WrestleMania history.
Yeah, WrestleMania history, man. The good and the bad, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, there's just a lot of ugly.
We could spend more than an hour talking about Mania.
Yeah,
just so many great moments. But that just about does it for this week's episode. We're about out of time. We have an email address set up. If anybody wants to send any comments, suggestions, any topics of discussion, just drop us a line at tpwshow@gmx.com. Drop us a line, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you.
A topic you like us to discuss.
Sure.
Questions.
And that about wraps it for this week. For Mr. Ace Larson, I am Electric Eric Davidson. We'll see you next time.